So how do you make your own breakable object? Let me show you. Jump into Blender, and in it, let's add a new cube. And you can make any shape work in this way. I like to work with a cube, and before I made, well, in our game we have a bit of a door. So what I'm going to do for scaling, because I want to have precise measurements for mine, I'm going to go to the right in the inspector on the right here, and look under scale. Rather than use my scale tool, I'm actually going to type in some values. So in terms of the X, I like this to be about 0.2 for my door. For the Y, 1.5 wide, and the Z, 2 high. So it has kind of the dimensions of a door, and of course you can make yours in whatever scale that you would like. The next thing I need to do is make sure that I have a special tool Blender offers installed. So I'm going to head up over here to Edit, Preferences, and under my Preference window, I'm going to find the Add-ons tab on the left. And under Add-ons, you should see a drop down. Make sure that it says All, and we're going to search for Cell. And you're going to make sure that Object Cell Fracture is enabled. So make sure the little check is ticked in that box. Perfect. Now we can head back to our project. And what this has enabled is a special feature. If I head under Object, this little menu here, now make sure that you're not in edit mode. Make sure that you're in object mode, and go under Object, down to Quick Effects. And under here, you have a few other things you see that you can work with. A kind of a fun one you could test out to try is Quick Fur, that adds some fur to your object. Kind of fun. But what we want under Quick Effects is our Cell Fracture option. Now, if I click this, I have this really complicated menu popping up. We're not going to worry too much about the settings, except for one, this setting called Noise. This is what determines how spread out and different each of our cuts are. If I leave Noise at 0 and press OK, you'll see that I get 4 kind of regular looking cuts in my object. What I want instead is, under my Cell Fracture, this to be cranked up all the way to 1, meaning my cuts end up looking quite a bit more different and kind of randomized. One thing you'll notice here, it looks kind of weird and glitchy. It's because I actually have made a separate set of cuts, and this cube is my original one that if I move it, you'll see it's kind of all still in place there, and all my cuts are separate objects that I can move around, which is what our goal is. However, in this object, I want there to be more cuts. And so how am I going to go about doing this? I'm going to Control Z back until I just have my basic shape. And before I go and do my fracture, I'm actually just going to right click on my object. And, oh, sorry, I want to be under edit mode for this. And right click on my object and click on Subdivide, which is going to split it up into more sections. And to get the best results, we want to add maybe another layer of sections. The more you add, the more pieces will be made. However, the more intensive it'll be on your processor, and it might make your game slow down. So don't overdo it with this step. Now that I've subdivided my shape, I can press Tab to go back, Object, Quick Effects, Cell Fracture. And now, if I apply my 1.0 noise to my object, it's going to make a whole ton of cuts in this thing. Now remember, just like before, we have this cube that I need to actually move out of the way. Well, this time it had all my new objects selected, so I'm going to Control Z that. Oops, let me do this again. Quick Effects, Cell Fracture, hit OK. I got my nice, noisy cut shape, and I'm going to choose my original cube, get it out of the way, and in fact, I'm just going to delete it. And now I have this beautiful rock wall that's all broken into different pieces that will now be able to be broken apart in my game. One quick piece of advice is that in our games, we actually are using that magic trick that we learned a little bit about back in Unity, where we need to have a solid object that we then swap out for the broken one so that the actual crumbling can happen without things going wonky in between. So what I actually need to do is, before I've done all this fanciness to my object, I'm going to save a copy of my block called a non-breakable block, so that I have a copy of the non-breakable one. And then I'm going to apply this process. Let me do it one more time here. Quick Effects, Cell Fracture. Let's apply all the basic settings here. Let's fracture it, and let's get rid of this original box. So I just have the fractured part. Now I can save another copy that's the breakable block. So I have the original unbroken version and the breakable version that are both exactly the same size. So I can swap them out using our strategy in Unity. all that's left to do is to take our new objects and drop them into our Unity project so we can use them. There you go. You can make any shapes that you want, break them up, and put them into your project for special breakable interactions.